So I'm going to give you a little bit of background and tell you where I'm coming from to give this talk. And we'll talk about, well, why bother with CW? You know, there are lots of other modes, and what's special and different about CW, and why might you want to get into it or brush up your skills. And then if I can hook some people on that story, I'm going to talk about, well, how would you learn it or how would you get better at it? And then I'm going to talk about how you might be able to jump into a contest without being all the way up the learning curve. So that's the agenda for tonight. So why am I talking about field day? Well, we just did Winterfest, right? The reason is that if your CW isn't really up to par and you want to give it a shot at field day, which I hope you will, the time to start on that is right now. And there are also some specific opportunities right now that I'll talk about. So field day for us, it's conducted, contest style, as those of you who have been there know. But like the other events for Vienna Wireless, it's about learning, it's about participation, it's about a shared wonderful experience, and points are good too. But they're last on the list. Okay, who has never worked a ham radio contest? Okay, a couple of you. So let's talk a little bit about contests and how they work before we dive in here. In ham radio contests, you always want to read the rules. And I would suggest you read all the rules, but there are some key things that you need to know about any contest to get off the ground. All right. What other stations can you work? How are your contacts going to be scored? And what information do you have to exchange? Okay, so for every contest, there's some bit of information that you have to exchange. In the case of field day, let's talk about what the rules are there. All right. So on field day, you can work any station, and all the stations are 1 point or 2 points, depending on whether they are phone, which is 1 point, or anything else, that is any digital mode, or CW, in which case the contest or the contact is worth 2 points. So we can run our phone station, our CW station, and our digital station all at the same time, and somebody can come along and work us each way and get points for each one of those contacts. The information to be exchanged in the case of this contest has a couple of pieces. It has, first of all, something called a category. Let's see if I can get this working. The category is, first of all, a number, and it could be more than one digit. It could be a couple digits sometimes, which is the number of transmitters that count under the rules. Now, we actually run 6 transmitters, but we get 2 free, one for the GOTA station, which is our Get on the Air for new folks, and one for a VHF only station. So if you have stations that are used that way, they don't count in your total. So typically we run 4 stations that count plus these other 2, and that makes our category start with 4. And then the A says that we're on emergency power and we aren't using any mains power. And stations that we contact are going to have a different number of transmitters, and they're going to have a letter near the beginning of the alphabet that describes, how they're powered. So that's the first part of the exchange. And then the second part is the ARRL section. Now for us, that's Virginia, which would be abbreviated VA, but you've got to be careful with that. In NAQP RIDI, we exchange states, but it's not the same at field day. It's sectioned, and a lot of the states are broken up. So for example, there's a Los Angeles section, and they will be sending LAX. So we need to, at each station, post a list of the sections so that folks can understand how they need to be logged. Okay, let me move ahead. So let's talk about what it's like to operate field day and to start off, we're going to talk about what it's like to operate phone, because everybody's used to that. You can sit down in a few minutes and be ready to operate phone. So I'm going to put on my imaginary headset, and I'm going to call CQ, and somebody's going to answer me. So I would say, CQ field day, CQ field day, Kilo 4 X-ray Yankee, Kilo 4 X-ray Yankee, field day.
Whiskey 2, Whiskey Charlie Mike.
Whiskey 2, Whiskey Charlie Mike, 4 Alpha Virginia.
1 Delta Los Angeles.
Thank you, Kilo 4 X-ray Yankee, field day. So that's what one contact plus an invitation for another contact would sound like on phone. Okay, so he gave his call sign phonetically, and I gave our call sign phonetically. And that's the exchange. Now, let's try the same thing in CW and see what that's like. So first of all, I'll show you what it is in text. So CQ to say I'm soliciting contacts. And typically in a contest, you may say what contest you're participating in case there's more than one going on. Also, sometimes you'll hear people send in CW TEST to say that they're in the contest, and you have to, assume what contest it is.
It's not a test transmission.
Right, not a test transmission. Okay, so this is what it looks like in CW, and now for fun, let's listen to it. Okay, so that was about 20 words per minute. And for those of you who need to brush up, that's probably a pretty good speed to aim for if you're going to run. Now, what I mean by run is the station that's calling CQ is running. The station that's answering the CQ is searching and pouncing. So you'll see in some of the software a run mode and a search and pounce mode that are set up to send the appropriate characters depending on what you're trying to do. Now I tried timing this with a stopwatch, and I would say that this took maybe a little bit longer than the voice in this particular contest, and it kind of depends on what the exchange is like. But just for fun, let me show you what it sounds like when some of our top guns operate field day, okay? Okay, so that can sound pretty intimidating if your current speed is like 5 words per minute or something. But I will tell you, I've got my own improvement plan going, and I'm starting to be able to hear this stuff. So, it is impossible. 35 is still pretty tough for me, but 30 is starting to come through. The other thing I'd like to say is for those of you who maybe you're working in the CW forum or whatever, you're sending long messages. These messages are very short. It's easier to copy at higher speeds when your messages are short and when you know a lot about what's coming at you. So in this case, you know that when you get down here, you're looking for him to send a number. Now you don't know whether it's going to be 1 digit or 2 digits. You might have 10 transmitters, but you're going to be listening for a number, you're going to be listening for a letter, and then you're going to be listening for something from a defined list of ARRL sections. So as your brain gets used to working field day, it starts to use this information to be able to process higher speeds more effectively. Okay, so well, how would you compare working CW and sideband? When I timed the 30 word per minute exchange, that was less time than I thought one could take with reasonable enunciation, of the exchange. So CW might take a little more, might take a little less depending on how fast you're going, but remember CW contacts are 2 points, and it shouldn't take you twice as long. So that's one of the reasons that CW really runs up our score on field day. Now let me just pause here and talk a little bit more about my motivation for this. For the past couple of years, I've been a captain at field day, which means that I've been in charge of a station. My station flipped between digital modes and CW, and I think I'm pretty satisfied with how the digital modes are going. People come into the tent, you can sit them down and work with them and get them into it in 5 minutes and so on. And that's fine. But to run up points, we need crack CW operators, and our bench is getting pretty thin. At the same time, though, when I talk to you guys at snack time and so on, I've talked to a lot of people who say, hey, I wish, my CW, were a little better, or I've talked to some of you who don't know CW and would like to learn, all right? This is the time to start if you want to be ready for field day. And my station was saved last year at field day because Jack Wells came in from Madagascar on Madagascar time and was happy to be there at 2 in the morning and is a crack operator. But I can't count on that being able to happen again this year. And it is about learning and it is about participation, and we're a little short of where we'd like to be on both of those counts in the CW space. Also, as somebody who does teaching every now and then, I know that my voice is a scarce resource, and all the CW in a contest is probably going to be machine sent. So I'm just pushing keys. I'm not sending all of that stuff. Sorry, Pete. CW signals. Well, there was an article in QST a while back. I can find the references if anybody's interested. It was talking about how punchy are the various modes. And CW signals are roughly 17 dB over sideband was in their estimation. Well, 10 dB is 10 times more powerful. So that's the difference between 100 watts and a kilowatt. And so 17 dB is, is a lot more. So you're going to have a lot more punch with your CW signal at field day. But learning CW requires a commitment. And I'll talk a little bit more about what it might take and ways to get there. There are lots of stations probably in both modes. I would say that the CW stations were pretty successful at getting long runs. By that I mean that it didn't take long when they were running to get the next person calling them. And that's going to have a big influence on how many points you get. Okay, so let's talk about CW and your resources. Well, of course, we have the CW forum and the CW practice net, which meets weekly. And is it twice a week now, Pete, or just? Okay, so it's twice a week now. And Pete and I are talking about, could we work some contest-like practice, into the CW forum to help folks get a feel for field day operations and polish their skills for field day. So that's one of your options. Now, I am in that boat of, hey, my skills should really be better to be better for field day. Now, I passed the 13 word per minute code test in 1962. I took 40 years off from ham radio. My CW didn't improve very much during either of those periods. I haven't been active that much in CW yet. So I have my own personal improvement plan, and what I'm going to do is take advantage of the CW Ops CW Academy. I happen to know the gentleman who leads that. He's in our local chapter of Quarter Century Wireless Association, chapter 91. His name is Jerry Weisskopf. But when he said that he was doing this, I went to the website and checked it out. And I thought they had done a masterful job, a really masterful job of putting together a program. So if you want to sign up for the CW Academy, their CW Academy, the time to do it is now because it starts in April. It goes through April and May. You can go to their website and look at their materials, and most of the teaching materials are there. So there's no law against your downloading them and doing the practices ahead of time. I mean, that's what I've been doing to get started. And I'll show you what some of their tools are like in a minute. But there are 3 levels. There's a beginner's class for people who don't know CW at all. There's an intermediate class for people who are sort of 15-word-ish, kind of capability to push above that, and an advanced class that tries to push people above 20 words per minute. Okay, the classes, the commitment is homework every day for 2 months, and it's like 30 to 45 minutes. There are meetings twice a week, and there's also on-air practice for the intermediate and above, not for the beginners yet. So I'll find out, how much flexibility there is in intermediate. I got in, so, maybe I just made it under the wire. Okay, they use some computer-based tools, and I'm going to show you a couple of them. There's also a list on our website of computer-based tools, and they overlap. I'll show you the 2 that the CW Ops Academy is going to use. The other thing that CW Ops uses is the code practice sessions sent from W1AW, and you can download those from the ARRL website if you don't want to, worry about propagation or being there at the right time. For the intermediate class, they start with 10 words per minute to copy it, but you don't write anything. Your mission is to get the gist of what is being transmitted by head copying. And I learned that's a skill where I am really, really weak. So this is, I think, going to help a lot. Okay. Also, there are lots of on-air events. Just mentioned the ARRL. There are other clubs that specialize in CW that do things on air. FIS is one, and of course CW Ops, and then casual operating and also DXing, as well as the contests. Now the contests that I've called out here, NAQP CW, which you may have attended, the QSO parties, and Field Day are all, rather casual contests. And then there are a whole bunch of other contests, often populated by some of the top guns. And I just successfully worked one of those above my skill level using some computer-based tools. So I'll tell that story too. You might give that a try because it really does help to get in there and listen to it happen. And you can have the computer do all the sending and stuff. And the decoding. I'll show it to you, but hang on. First of all, I want to demonstrate a couple of the tools. And I'll do this one first. It's spelled RUFZXP. So somebody who speaks a different language from us named this thing.
Klingon.
I have a love-hate relationship with this tool. let me tell you how it works. It's just going to send call signs, okay? But if you get it right, it's going to increase the speed until you don't get it right anymore. So in that sense, success is not an option, right? So it's not the greatest tool for your ego until you see how you're doing and realize how much faster it's starting to send to you and how effective it is. So I've been playing with this a lot, and it really, really does help a lot. So, you know, all you have to do is, you know, configure it or just start it and put in your call sign, and then tell it how fast you want to go. This would be about 30 words per minute. I don't want to do that. There's a default in there that you can set. You know, let's put it back to 20, and I'll play with it a little bit. I won't drag this out too long, but I want to give you a feel for it. Okay, and I'm going to send that again. You get, all right, I didn't know whether that was an I or an E on the end. You get one repeat, and it charges you points for that.
So do you have as much time as you want to take to
Yes,
to
yes,
to write it down? I mean,
yes. And it charges you points and so on. And when you're done, it gives you a score. And, you know, they even have a board somewhere, place where you can post your score. That's much too embarrassing in my case, but that's how it goes. And so that's what this tool is like. And it'll tell you how fast it pushed you up. But I'm at the point where it's sometimes pushing me over around 30 words a minute. So I'm starting to be able to hear those and sometimes get them right. And there's no way I could have done that a few weeks ago when I started playing with this thing. So it's really effective. Okay. Okay, so we will. So says a pleasant goodbye, 73. So that's that one, and all it sends is call signs, but some of the call signs are, you know, W2/DL2 blah 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 /QRP or something like that. So some of them are really very difficult call signs to copy, but it doesn't it's go beyond call signs. And this one, I've actually shown this before. This is Morris Runner. And what it does is simulate a contest. And in this particular contest, the exchange is different. And it's done in a very common way. The exchange in this contest that it simulates has two parts. Now, the first is a signal report. And over time, that's evolved by common knowledge that the signal report is always 599. Now, if you listen to it, you're not going to hear a 9, you're going to hear 5NN. Okay? All the numbers are going to be cut. The other part is a serial number. So the first contact you make, you send a 1, the second you send a 2, and so on. And the other guy is going to be doing the same thing, so you have to listen to it. You don't know, you know, what his number is going to be for your contact, and that's going to be cut too. So you're going to hear a lot of T's instead of zeros. You may hear O for zero, and so on. Now also, the robots in this tool are programmed to act like humans who make mistakes. So, and you may make mistakes too. So they'll respond if you blow the call. If you send CQ and they answer and you don't answer them, they will try again a few times and then they'll go away and give up. When you send your serial number to them, they may not get it and they may ask you to send it again. So you start to experience the things that, you know, go wrong in a real contest. You can turn these things on and off. I'm not going to turn too many of these on because I don't think we need to for a first experience. There's also this thing called QSK, and there are some rigs where the keying is fast enough that you can hear a signal come back at you while you're keying. So as soon as you let up the key, your rig starts receiving. If you have that, then you can click this box and it will, you know, allow for that. But you know, let me just start a run of a few minutes, and you can see what this is like to work.
That's me.